My name is Theo or Theo, depending on the primary school you went to. So this gentleman over here, he's Babu Khatev as well, but he's only Khatev when this one is not there, but you can call him Babu Khatev. He calls me Theo because he went to a Khatev home. So don't feel free to call me whatever you want. My surname is Mashego or Mashego. Again, depends on the school. But thank you. Let me thank you for your time. I'm your Chief Experience Officer today. Again, it's amazing to see so many people, old friends, new friends, people that we've traveled with for many years. I saw an old friend of mine here, Inga. Yeah, I had a story with him which I can't tell you about, the old zone. But yeah, it's really good. I've known him for over 15 years now, and he's here as well. Babu Khatev is old friends. I saw Mr. Adam Kraker here, you know. Because I work in sales, I reached out to Mr. Kraker once. So today when he saw me, he says, "You look good, like a salesman." Funny enough, 2019 November, on this day, we hosted him at ULP. And yeah, if you want, you can find that stuff on YouTube. There's a very beautiful lady at the back there. She's dressed in blue and a white shirt. Yeah, please make sure you look. Those of you who are single, walk out. Don't walk near to her. But yeah, you know, Mr. Mahali, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, has been to ULP probably 4 or 5 times now. But in the first time he came to ULP, he said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone. And I say that to acknowledge one of our friends, Mr. Masiza. You know, we walked a journey of about 13 years with him when we started ULP. And this book is almost like a culmination of everything we've been able to do in those years. So Masiza and your team, it's also good to see you. He also comes with camera people and his own entourage. To the pastors and the dignitaries in this place, let me also honor you as well. Let me first welcome Ms. Joyce Khatev. Ma, if you can stand up. You know, if it wasn't for her, this Morris that you see here, you wouldn't be here, trust me. And you'll see in the book, he says, you know the bad sides and the good sides. No, I do. I do know the bad sides and the good sides. And to Babu Khatev, as I mentioned, and the Khatev family that are here, let me acknowledge you. Let me acknowledge Patsepo, who's the CEO of Unleashing Leadership Potential. He's also amongst us. And acknowledge Confidence, who runs this lovely publishing company. You know, when I told Babu Khatev that you must get a publisher, a pop-up publisher like Penguin, he said, "Oh, no, I must get a young person and empower them with my book." And I said, no, we need Penguin. He said, "But yeah, a couple of years ago I empowered you." I was like, "Hey, you're right." Okay, let's just use Confidence. To Austin Topo and the team that organized today, we really thank you. And I did organize that for those of you who like the sour water, there is some at the end outside. To the dignitaries, first special guest, let me say all protocol observed. You see, he didn't switch off his phone, our guest of honor. So yeah, let me welcome all the guests again. Let me thank you for the pleasure of your time. And let me not waste time because this is a book launch. It's not meant to be a ULP session. where we talk. But I will be introducing Mr. Bonang Mohale, he's a friend of the family. He's a friend of you unleashing leadership potential. He's always early to events. I don't know how. I think the last time he came to ULP, we thought he's not there, so we were looking for him. We found him in the kitchen making tea. Like Adam, I think they're becoming a staple there at ULP. But let me welcome him, and then I'll step down and I'll come back to welcome Milton once he's done. This is a very short bio of Ntate Bonang, and he's got 2 books, so you should get both books, especially Lift As You Rise. It's a very amazing book. Very amazing book. I like the fact that he says if he had to relive his life again, the one thing he would do again is remarry his wife. He would marry his wife earlier, even though they got married at 16 or 18. No. You guys laugh. This is in his book. He tells us everything he's done, and that he got married to his wife early. If I had to do anything over again in my life, is to marry my wife earlier. What a wonderful story. I think Brahma Caesar bought like 1,000 books. Every time I go to his office, I take one to give to people. And that's why we honor you, President. Mr. Bonang Mohale is a highly respected businessman, well known much for his patriotism as his active role in advancing South Africa's interests. Over his impressive career, he has held chairmanships and directorships at some of South Africa's top companies, including Sanlam, Shell, Hollard Insurance, Swiss Re Africa. He is currently the chair of Bidvest, and he's the former CEO of Busa, as well as the author of the bestseller Lift As You Rise. He's also a chancellor at the University of the Free State, and he's a professor of practice at Johannesburg Business School and College of Business and Economics. And you can see why. They're both from Katlehong. They both worked in oil and gas. They both now work for universities. I'm not sure if our families are happy with working in academia, but they will survive. Ntate Mohale, mogoditswa no moholo. A re lebogele ntate. Thank you.
I want to remember your face so that when I meet you in heaven, I will be able to recognize you, so that I can thank you once again. These authentically profound, simple but gravid words are spoken by an 80-year-old as part of a group of 200 children that have just received wheelchairs from Nigeria's billionaire, Femi Otedole. And by so doing, liberates Femi Otedole to experience for the first time in his life true joy and meaningful happiness. Is it possible that we could bring about this notion of transformative philanthropy, whereby we give in such a way that we transform both society and the philanthropist? I personally don't know a poor philanthropist. And it should concern all of us that 28 years into democracy, poverty still has primarily a black and feminine face. Today we are standing under the shade of a gum tree that casts its shadow far and wide, deep and meaningful. Ubhungane has given of himself by being vulnerable and saying, "This is me." My grandmother says, when you give money, you give a lot. When you give time, you give much. But when you give of yourself, you give everything. He has given because until and unless we are in the habit of chronicling, archiving, and curating our own stories, our own lived experiences, others will tell our story and will wonder why anything that is black, hidden, backward is black, and the corollary is also true. Everything that is heavenly and progressive and holy happens to be white. And that's why Jesus is portrayed as white. Until and unless lions have their own storytellers, stories about hunting will always glorify the hunter. Because history is up to the temporary occupants of the corridors of power. 28 years into democracy, what legacy are we leaving for our children other than just new nomenclature of load shedding? We should call it what it is, blackouts. Because as we speak, who knows when we'll be in the dark? Now water shedding, the Western Cape, when it was approaching day zero, dams don't just suddenly empty on you, they give you ample warning. The Vaal water system is 95% full, and yet we're experiencing level 2 now down to level 1 water shedding, primarily because of two things: poor governance and aging infrastructure. Our children will disown us because they will ask us, how did we squander this gift of a 2/3 majority when we ushered in our first democratically elected president, Rolihlahla, Nelson Mandela, handed over seamlessly to Thabo Mbeki, who gave us 72%. We could have changed the constitution, who then gave us 43 consecutive quarters of positive GDP growth. We were referred to as the Rainbow Nation. 2007, on the way to Polokwane, the wheels came off. We stole like there is no tomorrow from the mouth of babies, from the sick and dying. Pumani says, when you open the covers of this book, you touch, you feel, you experience me and me and the children that we've been blessed with. Maybe through just that. Maybe, just maybe, power reveals character. Business now has a voice. To do what with that voice but use it judiciously? To be the voice of the voiceless. To help us release better humans. To allow all of us collectively, individually, and severally to graduate from humankind to kind humans. People that are deeply connected, that genuinely care for each other and one another, that find it easy to palate, highlight, and celebrate others, because when you do well, I do good. This is leadership. And I'm touched, humbled, and honored to be in the presence of dignified greatness from the black pool of excellence. Siyakubonga bungani. But you see, leadership, it's what happens when you are not there. Whilst management, it's what happens when you are there. The same way that ego is the enemy of leadership, panic is the enemy of progress, and arrogance is the camouflage for insecurity. Leadership is an opportunity and privilege to improve the quality of lives of others, not an opportunity to enrich self. It is not self, but the other-oriented. He has given of himself in the more than 15 years that I had the pleasure and honor to work with him in integrated energy at Shell. He built most of the service stations in the Katoras area. Then they started their own entity that then Sasol bought. And that's how we went to Sasol as a senior executive and retired from there. He decided that the same way that the best way you can demonstrate to your children and the best gift you can give your children is to love their mother. He says, the best I can contribute to my own society is to help write. So that if it took me 30 years to be an executive, maybe just maybe it will take you 5. Yeah. That's what it means to move forward in space and in time. That's what we call progress. No people can be helped by or benefit from institutions that are not a direct result of their own character. Yeah. Through your writing, you give us an opportunity to describe, to define, and shape this country, this economy, in our own image. Yeah. Yes, sir. Because we are descendants of warriors, of women. The people that built the pyramids are Egyptians who, by definition, are black. Before there was engineering. Sons and daughters of the Moors that went and gave civilization to Europe. Moses, even the Bible tells you, was black. More now. Today we are told that we are not good for anything except industrial scale looting. You see, nobody ever achieved anything on their own. None of us will be prosperous if we are only concerned about the self. We must, by definition, be in the habit of supporting each other and one another, precisely because we are black. It's the law. It's allowed. You're not breaking anything. I was talking to my friends that have literally brought me up, this young man and that one who's much younger. When I was the president of the Black Management Forum with Ntate Mokhomotsi, Mekuk was my deputy, we invited somebody from the Muslim community, somebody from the Jewish community, but also invited somebody from the Stellenbosch Mafia. Yeah. Because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We said, share with us the secrets of your success because they are successful. Let me digress. Pre-COVID, there were 55,000 people of Jewish descent. 15,000 of them have immigrated. If you do the arithmetic, there's only 40,000 of them left. They own 60% of the market capitalization of the Johannesburg Securities Exchange. Why can't we learn from them? Yeah. When you distill and synthesize the totality of the lessons that we can glean from them collectively, they are saying, do you, as a matter of course, ordinarily discuss with your family and your community about how to make money. They say, do you invest, support, buy from each other and one another? This is 55,000 people. There's 90% of us. 51% of us are female. We are poor by choice. Because even though per capita we learn less, but collectively we earn more. If we haven't woken up that when the tourists go to Soweto, they go to Wandis, now to Sakumzi, which is fashionable. They buy a plate of food because they came at 9 and at 3 they leave. That's not how you build successful economies. You want them to sleep in Soweto because that's where money is spent. Because the return on investment is that greater. A bar of soap, a little bit of hand and body lotion, that's no cost. That's where the money is made. You know Soweto has 3.5 million people. That's bigger than the population of the old South African Customs Union. Swaziland, now called Eswatini, Lesotho, Botswana, and Namibia. Each of them have on average about 2 million people. So Soweto has more people than Botswana. But it's okay for the Sowetans to drive the BMWs and the Mercedes-Benz in Soweto. But when they're involved in an accident, now they must take these and come and repair them in town. Because up until today, 28 years into democracy, there's not a single body repair shop in Soweto. Wouldn't it be wonderful that you drive it there and you park kokonka, ne? When they bash it, we say go Toby's Ford to fix it. That's how you create the economy. 28 years into democracy, even the previous mayor of Gauteng now talks about the township economy. He found the township economy there when he went to Lindela. There was economic activity. We killed them. Now we have to write strategic documents to start a township economy. The township economy is waking up in Soweto and saying, why? Does a truck drive into Soweto at 3 in the morning to deliver bread? When we could bake it in Soweto, and there's enough of us to buy it for that day. If we do that, it's 6.3 billion rands per day. That Richard Maponya opened the first Shell service station in Soweto to show that they had money. He owned the first Toyota dealership for brand new cars in Soweto. Brad Toby sold us their goods in black chain across the bridge from Baragwanath Hospital, now called Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. But up until today, black people who live in Soweto say, I would rather wash, take a taxi and go to center and take another taxi to come back, having gotten hungry there, and then sit at fishmonger there. That's how you generate economic activity. This is not rocket science. So we are eternally grateful that as we begin to glance and page through this book, we'll find pearls of wisdom of a real lived experience, of people who have the discipline and the rigor to work in the private sector, and they know what it takes to talk about good cooperative governance, which in its most basic sense is the separation of ownership from control. 28 years into democracy, we say now we want the finance managers of the 357 municipalities must be CASAs. 28 years into democracy. 28 years into democracy, we say 64% of the public servants are not properly qualified. 17th of April 1984, Ndate Bungane and I knew that if you applied for a job anyway, I'm talking about middle management, not CEO, you had to at least go through forms of vetting.
Yeah.
They'd ask you for a reference from your previous employer so that they know that you haven't stolen anything. They'll ask for qualification reference so that when you say you've got a doctorate from some university in the States, that indeed you do. And then they'll do a credit and criminal check for. If you miss one, the other one will catch you. If you miss the second, the third, and the fourth, it's like a Swiss cheese model.
Yeah.
It's not possible that you miss all of them. But because our intent is to loot, you wake up one day and say, but how did we miss the opportunity of owning 740, more than 740 state-owned entities and state-owned companies? 48 of them are bigger than economies of some African economies. Eskom, Transnet, SAA, DINEM, bigger. Had we put in black women as MDs and CEOs of those SOEs for 25 years, only for a period of 5 years, without political interference. Oh, today we would have 30,000 women with a demonstrable track record, so that when Ethiopia Airline, which is the best, that's the Emirates of Africa, is looking for an MD, they look south at this 85-year-old award-winning African airline for an MD. Unfortunately, SAA is no more. It used to fly to 700 destinations with the old Boeing 747-400 SPs. There is no one like it anywhere else in the world because the fuselage was short, because we couldn't fly over the continent. We had to fly around the bulge. Therefore, we needed bigger tanks, 192,000 liters of fuel. It took us 10.5 hours, OR Tambo to London Heathrow. Today, there's only 20% of that hardware and 10% of its routes. We just sold 51% for R1. And yet for 4 years, they've never submitted annual financial statements. How did we do the valuation? If the idea is not to loot. We will glean in the pages of this book that it is wonderful to be wholesome and ethical, because leadership can't be anything but ethical. That you have to love your people to lead them. And if you love your people, it's not possible to steal from them because you wish for them better than you wish for yourself. Bongani, let me just conclude by saying where we are now, we are in a state of border. I spoke about load shedding. I said, let's call it what it is, blackouts. It is preposterous that for the 28 years that we've been free, more than half of those years we spent in the dark. Because the rolling blackout started in February of 2008. 14.5 years later, we couldn't solve it. We look at ourselves in the mirror. Now we want to be promoted to run the whole country. We are poor by choice. The choice of leadership we are making up until today. So how does it manifest? So each time the lights go out, stage 6 load shedding, we lose 4 billion a day. Between stages, that's 500 million. We wipe off an entire percentage point from our GDP. For the last 10 years, our GDP growth has been on average 2%. We should be growing at 7% just to address the 380,000 young graduates that get onto the job market, often with inappropriate skills. Water shedding is 8 billion a day. Load shedding, water shedding, fuel shedding. international airlines know this. If you fly into the Maldives from OR Tambo, the flight leaves at 11. Now they ask you to come at 9 so that you can get into an aircraft. They fly to King Shaka International Airport, so they fill up there because there's not enough fuel here. You and I better start tightening our belts because we are now going to start rationing fuel because of the type of leadership that we have chosen. Because you see, this ANC-led government doesn't want experienced people with a demonstrable track record like Ubunga. They want people that when they employ, the understanding is that's how brave they are, that 5% of your salary must go to the house. So they're not looking for people who know what they're doing. They're looking for people who will bolster the coffers so that they can continue to loot. I said, how does it manifest? We are at a space in time where now even inequality is widening. Racism is at an all-time high. Black graduates are roaming the streets hopelessly. Public education has collapsed. Public health care continues to fail the poor and the vulnerable. Crucial infrastructure is lying barren. And lawlessness has now become an epidemic. Ntate ke mthimkhulu wa Bhokane la sala Thibazela inkalankala yasemlanjeni umakhulukhulu uthi khubu ya hae ha itsetelo fatshe e jowe ke marwana ya kgelwa metsing e jowe ke maga nna ke a le leboa ka nnete hle ba kwena ha le tlile le phalletse le tlotla bona le sapo la bolona nna bitso la ka ke bona Mohale ke mokwena mo Kotedi ke mogolotsono moholo sekgosha ka mpafatshe kwena e jarile le hlabathe ka mokoko utho ya sesa kwena inyolo wa madiba thala bodiba I thatika ka lebo ho thwe ke gagaulane molamo a tshepe ke le bua la morampokane na ke bono ke banana ke bona ke ditshadi kgolo fela ke mphatlalatsane na ledi ya meso re bone ka yona hore masiu a se asile ke lenisa la mametsi matshwana la mametsi madididi metsi a ka thewa thabeng a etsa diphoro banana ba sala ba o tla koma ka hlogo ke for peace ho thwe gaola dithota re bone which is a mauleng tatao mohlango le mohlatsatsi le leholo mohlao no phaladiswa baloi thuteng tsa modidi ba taoleng mokwena ha matha wa lelala tsipasela shibilo dimo ayo kena ba holo bo ntile moronywana motso sena Mohale wa ke le rantane la ntiti ya banana ba le pumme ba latla fatshe ba re le sa le tshikisa mokwena na ho tshika wa tshika Mohale o pasitwa kwa gamala o tshika jolo ka mankukune tse etsa jwang haholo ke basadi ba ntse ba mpotsa gafetse bonang ha so ke kae o haile kae ha se hole sebakana ha se hole ba o pala mapere le ba ba ntse ba ntse ba fihla ho dikoting ka ba ke le bontshana nka kgatala kwa gamala le godimo ho ja wa ngodiswa ka ba ke romela ditlhareteng ke dilemo le ngwana mme a ntse a kula Mohale ha le fetseng ha kana ho thwe ha ilale le rona makwala re none ntwa ke ya madula mmoho ya kae baneng ntateng ka gelle molangwana fela ke iphuke fela tlale sitwa I dunyala ho thwe khomo ha nye boloko ka ofela ya gaola ya
Wow. No. Just give him a hand of applause. Maybe Adam but no, just wait. And Dave, I promise he wasn't making fun of you at the end. He's praising himself. There's nothing to do with the white people in the room. I swear, I promise. I hear more of the Khadere family has arrived. Let me welcome them as well. It's quite a huge family to name all of them. But I'll ask Koko Kelane Khatebe to stand up, and if you can clap hands for her. The Khatebe family say she's a matriarch, and they consider her a mother and a father at the same time, and hence her. But thank you, Professor Mohale. What an orator, and I promise you, unlike Obama, there are no teleprompters. Those numbers are in his head, and you can double check them yourself. I promise you they'll come up. And that's why, it's very funny for a book launch to have a speaker, but we thought as a friend and someone who's been there in the journey of Baba Khatebe, he should come as well. Tabo, the chairman and CEO of Siemens, let me also acknowledge you as a friend and a supporter of ours. Dave, I forgot to acknowledge you a little bit earlier. If you want another person who knows the secrets that are not in the book, it's Dave. Dave has been with Baba Khatebe for many years. He used to be a partner at Deloitte. Let me also acknowledge, earlier on I said, let me sing for you, but I can't sing. But Baba Khatebe's sister, who's here, Nonhlanhla Mdluli, at least she can sing. But I'm not going to ask you to sing. I'm just telling people you can sing. Just stand up. Just stand up. You see, I know celebrities, yeah. As you get autographs for books, buy CDs as well of Joyous. She'll sign them. Let me also thank Exclusive Books and the lovely manager. I think it's Mr. Mtsona. He's amazing, really. He's been a great host to us. Again, it would be unfair to name the Khatebe people that I've written down. Let me acknowledge you all in your entirety. One of the unsung heroes is where is she? Palesa. Today I want to acknowledge Palesa. Palesa, come stand there. Let them clap hands for you. People know Palesa. She's got the worst part in the family because she's Baba Khatebe's daughter, last born, but she's always an employee at these events. That's how she gets a little stipend. But today I acknowledge you as an unsung hero, okay, sister. So I'm going to introduce Baba Khatebe, but before that, I'm going to introduce Pramilton Nkosi. Yeah, Inja game. My Caesar said Inja game. To translate that in English, it means the dog of the game. So he's the dog of the game, and you'll understand why he's the dog of the game. Let me acknowledge you as well, Prof. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. That's Baba Khatebe's oldest friend probably in this room. Yeah. Not by age, by having been friends for that long. Once I went to see him at Tebe, and I told him about Baba Khatebe and what he's been doing. And he said to me, at the end, he said, Theo, let me tell you something. Maurice is an old friend of mine. He's a friend and he's old. So, that's what I was trying to explain. How the two profs suffer. If you are lucky, on a very nice Saturday and it's hot in Soweto, and you go to Vilakazi there, but this person that I talk about, you may find him walking up and down that street. He doesn't live too far from there. But let me read his profile, and then he'll come and sit where they said he'll sit, and then I'll introduce Baba Khatebe. Pramilton Nkosi is a former BBC News Africa Bureau Chief and Correspondent. He was also South Asia Bureau Editor based in New Delhi, India. Mr. Nkosi joined the BBC over 3 decades ago, just before the release of Mandela from prison. He covered the township wars and subsequently political negotiations to end the apartheid. Mr. Nkosi did his journalism training at BBC at the BBC Academy's College of Journalism in London, and he's a management and leadership program at Ashbridge College. He studied teaching civil engineer before he joined journalism. Okay, Adam, apart from you being a Brit, I also know Milton. No, he is. He's a very good connect. He has covered major stories in Angola, in the Zaire, the present DRC, in Namibia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Rwanda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Sudan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, and many more other countries. You are now in Asedeve. He has interviewed Walter Sisulu, Harriet Belafonte, former President Bill Clinton, former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, who could keep his land, and Gordon Brown, F.W. de Klerk, former Nigerian President Obasanjo. Yeah, you all know. Former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He covered them well, actually, on his funeral. You should have watched it. I will find it on YouTube. Former President Jacob Zuma, former President Thabo Mbeki, former President Kgalema Motlanthe. In 2017, Mr. Nkosi traveled to Dubai to do an interview with Duduzane Zuma on allegations of state capture. His video went viral on social media and many other platforms. Mr. Nkosi is an award-winning journalist who also reminds us to see him as just an ordinary township boy in Orlando West. So weird. Promise you, the first time I met him, it was on the street of Villagas. Who supports Orlando Pirates? Come on, clap hands for that. Do the right thing. He's currently the chairman of MMN, International Consulting, and he's also a senior research fellow at Africa-Asia Dialogue. And I think some of us, maybe from Asiza and I, also call him a friend. But Milton, take the stage, my brother. I think Milton will do a better job of introducing our guest of honor, but I will tell you a little bit about him. And he can then take his seat afterwards. You'll see in the book, he talks a bit maybe about his back. That's why we give him a special chair there, okay? Mr. Maurice Radebe started working in the late 80s at World Vision. World Vision is like the current gift of the givers, if you want to work it out. Afterwards, he then moved to work for Shell, where he spent about 5 or 6 years. He then moved on to join Excel Petroleum as one of the founding executives. Later on, he took over from Dominic to become the CEO of Excel. They then drove Excel, and in 2003, 2004, it was sold to Sasol, having started with Donald Trump says, my father only gave me $5 million. They also started with a humble $5 million, and they sold the business for $2 billion rand. And Pastor Msewu was part of the executive at the time, also in charge of marketing. He then joined Sasol as the MD of marketing. He later on was then promoted to managing director of Sasol Oil. In 2010, we thought he's retiring, but he decided to journey on and join the GEC in social, corporate, in those things. He then moved on, and in 2014, we thought he's retiring again. I'm right, Dave, eh? So far, but then they moved him from GEC, still in GEC, they made him executive vice president in charge of energy business worldwide. And he continued there until he retired during COVID in September 2020. He is now an academic. He's an adjunct professor at WITS, and he is the head of WITS Business School. Some of us here went to WITS Business School. Some of us used to study for free. I'm currently fighting with WITS because he's running it like a business now. So we appreciate him trying to give back, but the sooner he leaves, the better. Without any further ado, Babu Khatebe, take the stage.
This is. Thank you. I was using this.
Hello. You know, when you are sitting at the front, you can't tell how packed this place is.
It is actually
My
amazing.
goodness.
My goodness.
Rosebank is cooking tonight.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not believe any word you heard from Theo about me, except that I do want to declare tonight that I still support Orlando Pirates. We don't support it because we win. We support it because it was born in us. Come on. Amabhakani akhuluma iphowethu namhlanje. It is an honor and a privilege to be sitting before you with my mentor, hero, and leader, a wonderful man from Katlehong, Professor Maurice Khatebe.
Hey, Joe. Yeah.
Work with me, work with me. Now, Bonang, thank you so much. Is he gone? Thank you so much. I wish I could say the Nkosi praises like you do, yours, you know. I felt so jealous because I can't do the Nkosi Isbongo, you know, the way he does. But when I'm in England, you can't touch me. So now I'm in Rosebank, I will stick in my lane, especially after Bonang. How were those statistics?
Yeah.
I was just thinking I must Google it. I even forgot how many Googling I have to do, you know. That was quite impressive. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much. And Theo, thank you so much for a wonderful welcome. We are proud of you as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Exclusive Books, particularly here in Rosebank, for allowing us to come here in our numbers to celebrate this wonderful book, The Fuel to Lead. So when I read the title, Fuel, I just thought, oh, you must match the standard, you know, wear fuel green jacket. Or petrol green, it should be said. It's good to see so many friends here with us, and the families Zagaba Khatebe, Nomam Joyce, the real boss.
Yeah, the real boss.
Yes. I want to have a conversation with Babu Khatebe so that he takes us through how he wrote the book and so on. And you have to bear with me. I have to be careful not to try and get all the stories in the book from the stage, because then you'll walk away feeling that, oh, we just had an audio book, so why buy? We want you to buy.
Yeah.
So please, forget everything I'm going to say tonight. Just remember, I must buy the book when I leave Exclusive Books, and you can get it signed. He's been practicing, he's ready to sign. Right. Theo has already mentioned that you also need to remember to pick up Bonang Mohale's book, Lift as You Rise. So if you can buy 2, you'll be getting closer to Mr. Masiza, who bought hundreds. So you wouldn't be doing anything wrong there. Prof,
Yeah.
it's good to be here. You are looking as fine as ever.
Thank you.
Can I just open? It's very hard to do an interview where there's no controversy, by the way, I must just tell you. I was sharing with Adam earlier. We always want a little bit of controversy. You know, are you corrupt?
What a question.
That's not the question. I'm saying it would have been so nice if I had the chance to pose it to my interviewee. But tonight, I cannot. I've tried. I've been researching. Believe you me, trust me, I was researching. I looked at state capture. I looked at Nkandla. I found a bit of Nkandla. Now, here we go. Prof, first of all, congratulations with this insightful piece of work. I enjoyed reading it, and I couldn't put it down. My dogs did not even get my attention when I was sitting there. I sent you some pictures with them sitting there, watching me read the book. And sometimes I felt like crying, sometimes I felt like laughing. So that's what is in store for you when you buy the book and you eventually read it. You'll feel the way I did. First of all, the question really that is the most obvious one is you've been in leadership positions for many years. And you've now written this book in 2022. Why now? And why the title, Fuel to Lead?
First, I think let me acknowledge Milton. I think let's clap hands for him. He's walked with us this whole journey of ULP CEO conversations. Let me first acknowledge my wife. Why would you clap the hands for her? My mother, my brother, who's a young lamb, is a very successful business person. My last born sister, Toloze. That's my sister. Auntie Judy, Auntie Judy. Is my sister Uzagu from Sipo. My daughters are here. Palisa, where's him? Wow, there you are. And Theo, my son, and one on soldier there. Hey, you see, now I'm acknowledging everybody. See, my wife is here. She says now, okay. I'm getting off the script. Why now? As I said when they were asking me this question, I've been mentoring a lot of young people here, and I can see I've been Tanyelo for many years, and we started with KO, and then we also had a leadership when I went on Tandazo there, and then the whole ULP has been running now for 10 years, 12 years, and a lot of these young people that I've been mentoring, Bona Nabumasis are here, urged me, some of them, and said, write the story, your story, because we benefited from it. They urged me, and particularly write about your weaknesses, write about your failures, because there's more to learn there. And I found that useful, and I spent the last 2 years after retiring from SASO, spending 2 hours a week just to write and reflect. I'd like to also acknowledge confidence of the publishing book, Stand Up Young Men, so that backbone. Please support that young man. Theo is right. There was a lot of big publishing houses that wanted to publish this book, but in line with our values of lifting as you rise, I said, no, let's empower a young, small entrepreneur. And so he's done a great job. Thank you very much for that. So it's the time is right to write a book when you finish your 60th birthday. And then you can look back and look at your life and look how it panned out and basically write the story with a view to really make sure that the young people that come after you will learn from your lessons and gain the experience. The title, I spent good 30 years of my life in the fuel industry, energy industry. So all the examples and the stories I tell in the book have got to do with the lived experience in a very difficult environment, the fuel industry, the energy industry, the challenges and the turbulence in that industry. So yeah, that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, that makes
Let me respect you and take my cap off.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? Except when it gets cold, you see. Then I'll take it up.
Okay. No, thank you very much. I very much enjoyed the foreword by Dr. Ruel Khoza. And he wrote about how soon after the launch of Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela's biography, which I suppose we've all read, if not, minus 10 marks. He asked Mandela to write something on his copy, or Ruel Khoza's copy, when he requested the autograph, right?
Yeah.
And this is what he found when he got home on the copy of his Long Walk to Freedom, Ruel Khoza. This is what Madiba wrote by hand. Throughout the ages and in all countries, men and women come and go. Some leave nothing behind, not even their name. It is as if they never lived. Others do leave something behind, the haunting memory of the evil deeds they committed against their fellow men. Every time their names are mentioned, feelings of revulsion well up in our hearts. Still others do leave something behind, the good works they do to improve the lives of all people. Is what Madiba wrote for Ruel what drove you as well?
Absolutely. It is critical that when we live in this earth, we make a difference. You know, I grew up in a school in Nkamane, in Vryheid, and one of my teachers used to say, Maurice, do not have a messianic complex. Don't try to solve all the problems of this world. There was only one Messiah. Let me tell you, all you need to do is to make this world a little bit better than you found it. A little bit better than you found it. Don't make it worse than you found it.
Yeah.
So that inspired me to live a life of contribution, a life of making a difference in the lives of people, and that is those words which Nelson Mandela talks about here. There's a sense in which inspired me. And Nelson himself inspired us, as you would know in the book, if I'm not rushing forward. We once hosted him as Excel Petroleum. And it was one of those beautiful moments when you have got greatness hosting him in a dinner and then listening to him speaking, talking about the royal we. He never used I once. Never talked about himself once. He talked about how Walter Sisulu groomed him, mentored him. And it's just an amazing man. So it's a pity that Bonam was talking about how our country has gone in the south. But I think we need to be encouraged by that spirit of Nelson Mandela.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. That's truly inspirational. In 1972, you left Katlehong.
Yes.
And you relocated to Nkandla. I was right. And you enrolled at Mpandleni School.
Yeah.
When you were only 12 years old. Sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone. This is what you learned there.
Yeah.
Because you moved out of Katlehong, your comfort zone, right, by going out to Nkandla. And you liked the phrase, you can't see the picture when you are inside the frame, which is a quote from Les Brown.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, that was quite an interesting experience. Again, in the book, I talk a lot about my grandfather who started the business in Katlehong, was a very successful businessman, and he really taught me business. Farid, can you hear me? Ah, that's great. Farid knows too many things. The legal battles were. So my grandfather was a successful businessman, and there was an opportunity, we talk about it in the book there, for them to go and start a business in KwaZulu-Natal. And I don't know how they landed in Nkandla, because it was an obscure, nobody knew Nkandla but that time. Right now, Nkandla is famous all over the world. But we went there together with my brothers and my sisters, and that was quite an experience to be in Nkandla, because here is a Katlehong boy, township boy, then you come in the rural area and you go to Kononetho Card. You know, it means, you know, when you're boys in, you know, this is, the culture in the Zulus is that if I meet you for the first time and I meet you, Adam, and they introduce you and says, Adam, here's Adam, hello, how are you? And the first thing I say is, but I can beat you, you know? And then Adam says, no, I can beat you. Before you know, now we're already starting to fight, you know? And then, so these Nkandla boys were good in stick fighting. And I didn't know any stick fighting. You're coming from Katlehong. And then we started this fight, and they hit me with the stick. And the first time, I was humiliated several times. But I thought, man, I must figure out how to survive it, because this is very important. You know, you can't every night, you know, every afternoon, you know, I don't know whether they still do it, but after school, how many of you know after school? You know, after school, there's just war. You just go and fight for no reason. So I thought, no, let me be smart here. Before I left Katlehong, there was a boxing club there. And this boxing club, we used to go and train, and a very, very good boxing coach here. And he trained us how to jab, and how to uppercut. Just, you know, Cassius Clay was the most important person. How many of you know Cassius Clay? You know Muhammad Ali, yeah? And so we learned that. So I was a very good boxer, yeah? Don't understand, I'm tired. Then I realized, no, these guys, I'm going to have to use my boxing skills here. So the guy would, when we start to fight, he would lift up, he'll whip me once. When he lifts it, the second time, I'll close in. And I'd come straight to him. Now he's got sticks. His face is open. I'll punch. And you know how it end up the fight so quickly. You hit the guy on the nose when they're young, and then they start bleeding on the nose. Then as long as there's blood, the fight must stop. So that's how I managed to use my competitive advantage. That's a lesson in competitive advantage. Shift the game from soccer to cricket. And I did that. And in no time, I beat 3 or 4 of them. They realized, no, this guy was too dangerous now. They respected me. But I had to learn how to use the stick. And I asked them to teach me to use the stick. And I can use it now. That's why on Saturday I was down there in KwaZulu-Natal and Moses Babita. When I went home, so carrying my shield and stick. So I know how to use that. So that was quite an experience.
That's a beautiful story. If I were you, I'd be clapping at this point. Now, I also loved the story very much of your teacher, Mr. Manele.
Ah, yes.
Who inspired you.
Yeah.
You were an average student. Nobody would believe that now. And suddenly things changed.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to love this story. I won't spoil it for you. Please buy the book. and you will see what I'm talking about. You'll be thinking of me and laughing along. And there's a great character called Crowbar, and another one called Sister Sunshine. Buy the book. Now, we're talking about leadership here. We're talking about all the national challenges that the country is facing. But while you are this great leader and responsible South African citizen, you're also a man. You also fall in love like us. So there's a great story about courting in the tennis court, where you found yourself shouting hallelujah, amen, when you met Joyce, who sang Messi Rewrote My Life in room 101. This was at unit 121, in room 121, correction. Tell us about that whole time in Teflop and how you got to fall in love and build this wonderful family that we see tonight.
Wow. Honey, shall I tell the details? Yeah, I love tennis. When I was in Marion Hill, we learned how to run tennis, so to play tennis, and now and again, in fact, it was Joyce's friend who loved also to play tennis. And so we'll all sort of go there, but my eyes was on her, you know. So played tennis down at Teflop, but she was not particularly interested in it. So I quickly figured out I'm gonna get close. Joyce and I actually became friends first. Very, very close friends, and we're part of the SCM now, SCO, and very close friends actually. I see JR here, we grew up with him. John Baloyi was also Teflop during that time. And
SCM, sorry, technically, SCM is Student Christian Movement. I know.
And that is where she used to sing. She sang very, very beautifully. Yeah, I can ask her to sing it for you. And she loves the song Messi Rewrote My Life. And when she used to sing in front there, and we're in the SCM, in the service, when people were clapping hands, I was shouting the biggest hallelujah! And I was very excited clapping the hands. I didn't. It was no longer the song. It was I want this lady to notice me that I'm her biggest fan. And it went on and went on. And I remember, SCM has got elders there who will hold you accountable because we're all young stars. And they started holding us accountable. They says, are you two friends or is there anything more? And they, hey, it was so big. I said, there's nothing between the two of us. But, it grew. And I'll be honest, and then he just started confiding in me and telling me, hey, there's a guy who's proposing me. Hey, I want Nyasala. And I remember she told me I was on my way to my room. Hey, I couldn't sleep. Say as a good parliament, there's a guy who's proposing. No. And I'm I'm a shell. That was the beginning of this great family.
All I can say to that is hallelujah. Now, moving right along, we're going through a journey.
Yeah.
So we're coming from an up, we're going down.
Yeah.
I think Theo touched on it, but he kind of spoke about it in a kind of heroic form. But you kind of gave it a very beautiful perspective for me when I was reading it. Chapter 6, the Sasol years.
Mhm.
So you spoke about how when you sold to Sasol, when
Yeah.
you sold Excel, and you were put in charge of rebranding
Yeah.
Excel
Yeah.
from Excel to Sasol.
Yeah.
You said it felt like presiding over the funeral of your own baby.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, as some of you who are old enough will remember, Excel was a pride of black excellence, and actually the word Excel was about excellence in terms of service. We built that business so fast, and this is where I need to give Farid. Farid, stand up. Stand up. Let's clap hands for him. All the legal battles, when you're running a business, huh? Adam, legal battles, legal fights, registration of leases, notarial bonds, and when you're rolling out a retail network of that nature, you need a lawyer behind you. So it was exciting times. So the best in all my career. That 7 years was the best. Entrepreneurial, breaking all the barriers, changing the history of South Africa in the oil industry, breaking regulations and shattering every stereotype against black people in terms of not being successful in business. Knowledge Dave here was also my coach and mentor as an MD. So the Excel was such a pride. Now, obviously, a business is a business. At some point, we reached a stage where we needed to sell. That's a very long story itself. And then, normally when a business is acquired, and even business schools literature tells you that, is that the CEO of the company, of the acquired company, gets bulleted. Just gets fired. Because that's normal, because if you don't fire him, you won't be able to integrate the organization quickly and fast. But in my case, thank God, I was not. I was actually ready for that. I was thinking that I'm going to go out on my entrepreneurial route. Jenny? No, I was asked to come in. Sasol made it very interesting and very attractive for me to come in and run Excel inside. First as an MD of marketing, fuels marketing, and later on became the MD of the company that acquired us. So we thank God for that. And so the biggest project that I had to take was now to rebrand the brand I have created. Not I, the team. Dominic, Sizwe, I must acknowledge Dominic, who was a really pioneering entrepreneurial spirit, Sizwe. And we've poured our lives into building this brand. There's a part of the story that I tell that is actually, we wanted to make it a household name. Now all of a sudden, the new shareholder wants to rebrand it into Sasol. And I have to do that. That was the painful part. It's almost feeling like you're burying your own little baby. But as a professional, as a business leader, and as executive, it made sense to make that deal. And therefore, the consequences of doing it was the rebranding of that. But it was extremely painful.
Powerful.
But we executed it with excellence.
Powerful, beautiful. I had a lump in my throat when I read that.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a lump in your throat, say it for me. Say it for me. Aha. Now that's.
I'm going to teach you.
That's
teach you also.
That's a good audience. So the other thing that I found quite. Oh, that's love there. That's love there. Or is it just camera work? So the other thing that I found quite fascinating about the hard work of leadership, we at the back of the queue, we see leaders there, and we kind of think like, everything is always in the dizzying heights of leadership, right? But I found something interesting. When you went to Qatar, you went to visit the South African ambassador just as a courtesy call. And the ambassador was so surprised that you were not asking for any favor, for anything. He said, you came all the way just to say, you say, yes, I'm working here, I came to say hello. And you had absolutely nothing to ask. And ambassador told you that everyone who comes here is looking for something, okay? Yeah. And you follow the doctrine of Saint Francis of Assisi. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's also important for all of us here. Whenever you visit the country, any country, your own country in that country is your embassy. And it's a good practice to go and first just greet them. So I've learned that. So as a matter of courtesy and economic development training that I got, economic diplomacy, is that when I landed at Qatar, before I could visit any other places, I visited our embassy and I visited our ambassador. And obviously he thought, for sure he's Kebemulis, Sebambopile, he's being arrested, or he's run out of money. Now he needs me or his passport has expired, he no longer has a permit. So he was ready for me to come and complain and ask for help. And he was so surprised that I just come in and says, salute, you are our ambassador, you are our representative of our country. I just want to say I am here and I thank you for representing us in this country. The Middle East is a very difficult environment. And he kept on asking, what do you want? I said, no, nothing. Just to come and have a cup of tea with you and just to say hello so that you know I'm here. And that was very, very surprising for him. And he told me all the horror stories of people who come to him and only just come for help and asking for things. And that was mind-blowing for him.
No, that's beautiful because that actually resonated with something I learned in journalism, that something called cultivating relationships.
Yeah.
So you don't just turn up the day you want an interview.
Yeah.
Okay, you go and attend the one-year baby's party, even if it's boring. Okay? Because you are cultivating.
Yeah, another expression is make friends before you need them.
Oh. I knew why I wanted to come tonight. Now, there's another lesson that is very important to share with the audience tonight and those who will be watching online. Is going back to school at your age. Of course, you go to business school, but I like the phrase I found that life is the most difficult exam. Many people fail because they try to copy others, not realizing that everyone has a different question paper.
That's very important. Everyone's got a different question paper. It doesn't help to copy anybody's life, compare yourself with anybody, because you've got a different question paper. You've got a different assignment, you've got a different purpose, and that's what I've learned in life. And I've tried my level best, by the grace of God, to just run on my lane, at my own pace, following my own destiny. Because if you deviate, even if you win, you get disqualified if you get into the wrong swim lane. So yeah, that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Thank you. We're making progress. Unprompted applause for a change. Thank you very much. That was quite profound. And we spoke briefly about family when you were referring to your loved ones. But you see why I loved this one particularly. So if you get to chapter 9, if you can hold it on that long and get to chapter 9, you'll see the beautiful tributes to the family. And he wrote this about his late brother, Pungane. We used to joke that I groomed you at a young age to be an Orlando Pirates supporter. I remember a photo we took when we were kids. I made you cross your arms to signal you were an Orlando Pirates supporter. Later on, when you decided to support Kaizer Chiefs instead, you jokingly told me that I had misled you into supporting Pirates. That was a beautiful tribute of brothers. There's no leadership there, but there's quite a lot buried in there. You talking about your brother and how you grew up together. I've been misled so many times by my elder brother, so I was thinking about the amount of times I was misled, you know. I think this is a very special moment for you with this book launch and everyone here, but we know we tragically lost Pungane to COVID. Perhaps this could be a poignant moment just to talk about the difficulties in the story. The stories are not all about bright and shine, right? There are tough areas in the story. Tell us about when you were growing up together and supporting Pirates, and then he leaves and goes to Kaizer Chiefs, but the brotherhood continues, because that's a lesson of leadership there as well.
It's difficult to speak about one. My kid brother, it's like still a nightmare. I think I'm gonna wake up and then he'll be sitting here. My brother. We're threesome.
Yeah.
COVID is good to face it. COVID is no longer stands. But we had a good life. We had a good. We shared good times. We grew up together, and we spent a lot of time also together here in Katlehong, but also in Nkandla as young people, and with my brother, with my sister, and yeah, you know, I was the firstborn, so they followed me, you know, including NOC. We put all of mine, you know. It's quite but I everything that I came back with, you know. For instance, I'll come in from the boarding school and knowing Brookbenton, and I'll buy LPs. They'll all sing Brookbenton, you know. I come with Angry Crouch, and they'll sing Angry Crouch. Whatever, you know, fashion I'll come with. So the same with the soccer. So I was an Orlando Pirates supporter. Hey, but last week,
That's painful.
Lela Goli, man.
That's painful. Big goal in the rugby.
Lela Goli, yeah. No, but it was a beautiful goal.
Yeah. No, very clever.
So I forced them, Bawangani. Hey, man, land. Pirates. Hey, now, Baland, Pirates. It's in Tati's job. Both of them. They still have, they hate it. It's not in the book that put them on brother. And later on in life, they grew, they had a life, obviously they take decisions of their own, and then all of a sudden, where did you learn this stuff? And then, they are ardent supporters of Chiefs, and it's very difficult in my family because it's split half. You know? But that's what the derby is. It's we're a tease each other quite a lot.
Now, you see,
Especially
You-
when they've lost, you know.
Yes.
The one that gets irk on me is when that guy stands on the roof.
That's painful. But you know, contrary to popular belief, I did think carefully about that question. So I want us to go to the surprises you found when you were writing the book, you know, through the experience. We're now coming to the end of my session. I'm going to open. So think about your questions carefully so that you can ask questions and you can give other people a chance to also ask. And if you have a comment, make it brief and so on. So tell us as we come to the close of this session, what surprised you about writing the book when you were going through the process?
You know, I always heard that when people write a book, it's almost like they use this big psychology catharsis, you know, therapeutic. Because in the book, I reflect about the passing on of my grandfather, who was my hero, mentor, everything. And I was in Tiflo when I received this. You remember telegrams, yeah? Telegrams had a test way of communicating painful news in a very cold way. Just at one sentence, Philemon Khadebe has died. I lost my mind. But anyway, fast forward, and finally we come to the funeral. And I didn't realize that I didn't mourn there, because actually when I describe in the book the funeral and what happened and how I actually, when all the cars were standing to go to the graveyard, I actually ran away and went into the room and I was crying there. And one of our matriarch, Makumalo, came and grabbed me and says, "Come, let's go to the grave so that you can see your grandfather has passed away." Actually, what surprises me is that I cried for a very long time. And I realized that I'd suppressed that grief. And I cried very deeply at the age of 60, something that happened 40 years earlier. So that surprised me. So, writing a book is good, something that it takes something that is deep in your reservoir, in your subconscious mind, and it brings it into the fore, and then you can deal with it, and then move on with it. So that surprised me.
Thank you for that experience. You quote a lot of people in the book, some of whom are here. What did they think after reading the book? Are they happy?
Well, they haven't read it yet.
Oh, so they haven't read it, okay. So surprises galore, okay. So come and see me at the back if you are interested in knowing the snippets that I will share with you. Now we're going to open it up, and then after that the signing will begin. So is there a roving mic? Okay, so who wants to go first?
For me, it's a comment, because I think I know this guy longer than everyone. Even the, oh, yes. Ngiyazi ngikhuluma nge-leadership, ngizokhuluma isizulu zabotolelela abantwana. Ngikhuluma nge-leadership. This guy, kwakushoniwe, and there was no pastor. He was 13 years, and he buried that. 13 years. leadership. And somebody talking about corruption. We're very poor, very, very poor.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that. I even quit school to go and work. And I used to, ngifake 10 rand as a Teflon. So I contributed. But his first job was World Vision. World Vision. And there would be trucks and trucks of food going to Tanzania or whatever. And that's not poop like You will not a George or Isal and poop for right. And it was just my mother and I that were working. I know the corruption level for the administration.
Yeah.
He was never corrupt. And he not tembega ngesilungu.
Trust
Uba honest, umfazi wakho mawumthanda umfazi wakho. Waqonywa la wamshada. Ayikho enye intombi akehamba nayo. Wa-introduce uJoyce. Wamshada. Wagugile manje. Umnene njengenjuba.
So the World Vision story was beautiful. Because Morris was supporting poor people in other countries of the continent while they didn't have food in the house. And he expected that maybe he can bring one bag. Says nothing. In fact, he took the little they had and shared with others. Okay, so thank you very much for that. That was beautiful. Thank you. There's a hand right there in the shelves at the back by the pillar.
Good evening. My name is Romeo. Bongani, congratulations on your book. We had spoken a lot about it, and you are a man who makes things happen. And I think that's the kind of culture that you inculcate in us. And we are so proud. And I just wanted to ask a question that you often talk about, and these are some of the values that you live. And you often say to us that, your gift will take you to the top, but your character will keep you there. And one thing that you have done so well, we are very fortunate that we get to hang out with you under the tree every Sunday. And for someone who is so well accomplished and achieved, you are so accessible. And you've never made us feel any less. You treat us like we are your equals. For us as emerging leaders, what is the significance of that? Because I think that's one thing that we need to really, really be mindful of. Thank you.
Leadership is undergirded by humility. It's so important that you understand that when you're a leader, you are a servant. I mentioned in the book here that, when I was a chief executive officer of Excel, I used to say I'm just a glorified petrol attendant. Because at the end of the day, my job was to facilitate that when you come with your car to fill up, you find fuel and you find a petrol attendant that is serving you. The whole infrastructure of the whole organization was about that. So I have been brought by a grandfather who was a very successful business person, and I've seen him humble. I've seen him serving the community. And for me, that's a mark of good leadership. This idea that when you are now a leader, say, hey, chief, my leader. And then you've got bodyguards, you know. And my son, they're like, that's not a mark of leadership. That's really not a mark of leadership. Mark of leadership is about with people. One of the topics I talk about in my leadership YouTube is that when you're a leader, you need to smell like your flock. You need to understand the flock. You need to work with the flock. So, Romeo, thank you for that compliment. I really appreciate it. That is what I would like all, particularly European leaders. I can see all the chronology guys, that when you rise and you become successful, be accessible. Wanna be, there. Finally, my sexual nation must be born. That's and most of the time is that when you see leaders like that, they are wearing the title or that office. And trust me, that office comes to an end. I was an executive vice president of Sasol, global energy business. That was the office. If I mistook the office and Maurice Radebe, you wouldn't be here, yeah? Because I would have treated you like dirt, and you would have said, yeah. It's so sad when you see a minister, Sekas Babela my back. And you feel like going and helping him, the minister. Because this guy was so loud there. He mistook the ministerial position for himself. Never make that mistake. Never. I promise you, if you're a young leader and you're going to be a CEO, you're going to be, just never make the title to go into your head. That's a motto I live by, Romeo. Thank you very much.
Covering politics in South Africa, there's another lesson I learned, that there is two chiefs. Yeah. There's High Chief, how are you, where's the meeting? And there's Chief, can you wash my car? Next question there, please.
It's good to be in your presence and follow through what you are sharing with us. And Hildy, you're doing it so well. What I wanted to check with you, because excellence is so central to who you are and what it is you do. Going back to the university that brought you Joyce, what are you in any way thinking about taking the lessons from leading Wits Business School to Teflo School of Leadership? And if at all, any consideration of a replication of that, and such that we're not talking about business schooling happening in South Africa, but it's happening right where we are. Just a question.
Absolutely. Well, the first 2 years that I've been at Wits Business School was just to stabilize business school, making sure that it's on solid ground. In fact, Dave, when I wanted to go to business school, he said, he's been my coach. He said I shouldn't go there, but I defied him. And I'm right, Dave, this time. The school is turning around, and it's doing wonderful things. So the most important thing now is to form partnerships. And at some point, actually, I did try to initiate a partnership with the University of the North, TEFLOP, and now they've started a business school. And early in the new year, I will be reaching out to them to really do that. The second one, this going to the townships. This book is actually, I mentioned the schools I've been, so as part of my tour next year will be to visit Izibugu, where I went, in Katlehong, and then also go to Nkamane, where I went, in Marion Hill, to really inspire the next generation of students there. You talk about excellence. Let me tell you a story how excellence was ingrained in me. I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, but after Teacher Mangele inspired me and showed my potential, I actually did quite well, and I was good in maths. And I remember writing this test in maths, and I wrote this test, and I finished 30 minutes before, and I checked, and I double-checked. I knew that there's not even one question that I got it wrong here. So I submitted my test to Father Alban. You remember Father Alban? He was a priest there. Nkamane is a mission school. And then when it came back, the results, the paper was written, everything was ticked, but it was written 99%. And I looked at it and I checked. What went wrong? What went wrong? And I realized it's nothing, and I got irritated. You know, when you're a youngster, I got very irritated. So I went storming to his office. I said, I got everything right here. Why did you give me 100%? You've given me 90%, 99%. He looked at me, took a deep breath, and I was getting ready. You know, when I was young, when I actually get angry, I'd be ready. You know? And he took the paper and he turned it down. And he said, listen to me, young man. If I give you 100%, I'll be telling you that there's no more room for improvement in your life. You can tell me. So I'm not changing this paper. 99%, you still will have 1% to improve. That was the most powerful lesson to me. Because after that, I was angry, obviously, that I didn't get my 100%, but it taught me a lesson that you can always improve. And that is why I push. There's my Lawrence here at business school. I talk about continuous improvement, excellence in all you do. Let's continue to do that, because once you've reached this stage, you can do more. Am I right, Adam? You can improve more. So that's where my excellence was ingrained in my life. And every time I'm doing something, I'm asking myself, can we do it better? Because I remember that 99%. Thank you.
Right. Remember, signing takes a long time. And you are the ones who will be queuing and waiting. And you know we have, I don't want to say load shedding, because Bonang will kill me. You know there will be blackouts, so let's try and move it right along. So one more question for last. Let's take the lady, because we are very democratic. Oh, okay, last two.
Yeah.
Last two. Yeah. And then at the back,
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Esther Leklape.
Oh, Esther.
It's not a question, but it's just a comment that I want to overemphasize about Ndate Khadebe's leadership. I don't know if it's in the book, but the one thing that he always told us and emphasized while working with him was that people issues in this organization are not the agenda item, but people are the agenda of this organization. I took that throughout my life, Baba Khadebe. And to all the leaders here, it's one lesson to say, if you don't lead with your people, through your people, by your people, but you make them an agenda item, you will never see progress. And thank you for being a great leader.
That's the last question. So don't say I did not pick you. There's no personal agenda against you. We love you and we are grateful you are here. So, Okay. So that was a little hijack in Rosebank at night. Okay, you can go first, and then the gentleman to your left next.
Thank you. My name is Jabulile. I'm happy to add the ladies' part because it's been gentlemen speaking. So Prof. Morris is my boss, so I have to say something. It's a career move. But yeah, what I want to ask, you say the book was therapeutic for you when you were writing it. But also, when you write a book, there's a part that is like the most exciting part. So which part in the book was like the most exciting for you? And secondly, for young people who want to be authors, what is the advice that you can give them who are scared to get started in writing?
Good evening, Maurice.
Yeah, Chris, go for it.
I've been fortunate to work with you in your SASO years. And at that time, you were leading the foreign opportunities that SASO was pursuing.
Yeah.
Great. And I traveled with you to many capitals in the world. At any point, and at what point did you feel you were carrying the weight, not just of the organization, but the weight of South Africa as well, as you ventured into these foreign countries to sell the value proposition? Because there's a lot of expectation was whether South Africa was ready. So as an economic diplomat, did you ever feel the pressures of not only articulating the business value proposition, but then where the nation is, where the country is, and the politics of the country? How did you feel about it?
Thank you. Let's ask Dr. Jabulile. By the way, let me also promote her book. She's written an entrepreneurship book. If you're an entrepreneur, get hold of it. I've written a foreword of that book because I believe in what she's doing in really particularly women entrepreneurship. The exciting part of this book is the last chapter where I summarize everything, where I talk about learning, earning, and returning. And I talk about the three phases of our life. They can be intertwined, obviously. I say roughly the first 30 years of your life is the time of learning, and then roughly the next 30 years is the time of earning, and then roughly the time where I am now is the time of returning. And I speak a lot about what I learned, and it's very, can I have time to reflect about what I've learned. I'm not going to tell you, so you're going to read the book. And then also the time of earning, the challenges of earning, supporting the family, but the lessons you learn there. And then the season in my life, which is the most exciting part of my life, which is the time of returning. And so it's exciting. That's the exciting part of this book. I urge you to read that, even if you just read that last chapter. Then you can come back and read the others, because there's just all the summarizing the wisdom and experience and insights, and also the mistakes I've made and the lessons learned. As aspiring authors, I would say write your story. Your story is the most unique story. There is no any other story on planet Earth. And just write your story. And also we provide support, confidence. We've started a program in ULP called Unleashing Leadership Potential for Authors, ULP Authors Forum. And he runs authors clinics and lessons, and it teaches you how to think about your book, frame it, and we run them every month. Not only do we do that, because we also run for young teenagers in high schools to encourage them to write, because we want to fight this culture of not writing amongst the African people. We've lost our civilization, by the way. I met Jonas Itende today, Mapungubwa. The civilization in the cradle of mankind was here. We lost it because we didn't have a culture of writing. We had a culture of verbal and storytelling. So I encourage you to do it, but be disciplined, be focused, and set times that are regular. In our case, it was Saturday for 2 hours from 11 to 12 and 1 o'clock, and then that's it. And then it's very important that you do that. So I encourage you to write. We at ULP are actually quite passionate about that now because it's important for the history of this generation. The question about Chris and I have traveled the whole world. We've been in Uzbekistan, we've been all over the place representing Sasol, opening up business opportunities. But you're right, when you are out there in the country, fortunately at that time, there was still a wave of Nelson Mandela. So if you come into the country, they say from South Africa, and normally the taxi drivers are always foreigners, whether it's from Pakistan or from different places. Are you from South Africa? Yeah. Mandela? I remember. And then that wave of Mandela, carried us through. And I remember coming to another country, I just said Mandela has passed on, and this guy says, Mandela, your king has died. Sorry. I said, who's my king? He says, Mandela. So the wave was great, but there was a difficult time, which from 2009. Those difficult years. It was very difficult to really represent our country. You carried the weight and the pain. When corruption was at its peak, to go and say you're going to do business, and the guy looked at you, you're from South Africa. It was painful to have that season, and we're still living along that time. But you've got to do your best and put your best foot about your company, at least, and about our country, and talk about the good things that we have, and the fact that we are fighting corruption, and we must fight it with all our might and our strength in order to destroy this scourge is bad. So yeah, I carried that weight, but fortunately I represented a company that was innovative, that was brought technology, which the world never had, and that made us to look very good. So thank you very much for supporting me all those years, Chris.
Thank you very much. Theo, close it for us, please.
Come on, let's clap hands for Pam Nelson. Consummate professional. We really done. I'm sitting there and I'm in awe because I'm listening, but I'm not hearing because of just the resemblance of them. And I'm thinking with all the discourse in the 60s and 70s, Canterbury and Soweto are not that far. Let me quickly call Sherlock, the manager of Exclusive Books in Rosebank, to come and just give a few words, and then I'll close. Come on, he looks good. Clap hands.
I don't know how many times I say this, Brathia. I'm the event coordinator of Rosebank Mall, but I get this every time when we're having a book launch. The manager. It's okay. It sits well with my manager as well because he's given me the platform to shine. And I've gladly accepted the platform. Jeez, yeah. Oh my word. It's events like this that gets me emotional, and I struggle to even know what to say. But with Webster, when you came to us and said, Sherlock, we want to do this with you, and we gladly accepted. We didn't know. In fact, let me say it like how it came to us. We didn't trust you that it would be such a crowd. So if you allow me to say, Bud Webster, from the bottom of our hearts, as Exclusive Books Rosebank Mall, we gladly appreciate and thank you for trusting us with this. TW Publishers, the whole team, I can't thank you more. If you allow me to also thank my team, Oputemba, Butinyiko, or Sismapula, the whole of us that are here, to say it's such an honor to see all of you guys here. And I see familiar faces. I won't mention you by name because some of you are so shy. Oh my word. Oh jeez, where do I start? What do I say? I've always been saying Bud Morris.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bud Morris. Guys, I think they deserve another round of applause. But you do this better than we do it here. And if it wasn't me, I would say every time when I have book launches, can you be here?
I'm the manager.
The manager, my number is 011444444. With all respect, guys, it's so glad to see all of you here. The book signing is going to happen over here on this table here. And the books are being sold at the counter. If you need, definitely you're going to need a copy and one for a friend. And, but Morris, I don't do this often. Will you allow me to, please? And with all of you guys. With all that done and said, I'm grateful. Definitely, so it's beyond words. I don't know what to say. I'm just happy to have all of you here, guys. And with Theo, I'm just happy. Now I'm shining like a star.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time, and thank you for being well behaved and staying. I also saw Abner Mariri, he's here, he's got a book called The Door. Also check his book, and many friends. I saw Mr. Shipularu, funny, maybe stand up. There's something in the oil.
Veteran of the oil industry.
When Nam spoke about petrol shedding, this is the man that makes sure that the land is wet, as they term it in oil and gas. And he's worked with Baruch HaTeva for many years, so we thank you. And the forebearer of after the person that came after Baruch HaTeva, Sasso, I was Priscilla. Thank you for your
Priscilla. Well, good to see you.
That's the EVP of Sasso Energy Savings. Don't ask for petrol stations now. But maybe in conclusions, I thank you for your time. I thank you for indulging me. Maybe just say Theo. Theo. Come on, say Theo. Theo. You are handsome. Thank you.